There comes a moment in life when you have to decide, are you playing it safe or are you all in? This is All In Empowerment, the podcast where we crush fears and step boldly into the life you were meant to live. I'm your host, Betsy Martell, coach and adventurer, here to push you past your limits and unlock your full potential. It's time to level up your life because empowerment isn't just a mindset, it's a commitment. So are you ready? Because in this space, we don't tiptoe, we go all in. Okay, well, I'm here today with Tracy Zenobia, and this is take two. I'm just going to go ahead and just tell it. You know, we could have hidden this moment, never talked about it again. But we just had a really great conversation, and it wasn't recording. So this is take two, and it was fantastic. So wait till you guys hear it again. So Tracy Zenobia, I met her. I was a personal trainer. And you came into the gym and we did circuit training together. And throughout that time, you were a nurse at the time. And I knew from things that you had told me that you maybe were looking for something more, something other than nursing, something that was more, that you were more passionate about and just changing things up. And during that time, as you told me, your brother had just passed away before you had come. How soon before you started working out in the gym?
Maybe a month or so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then your dad passed away. And then I don't know how long after you started at the gym with me, you started shaved ice as kind of, a fun little hobby on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let you walk us through that, because your story of how you got into shaved ice, how you then turned that into something even more spectacular and inspiring is just amazing. So I'm going to let you start from the beginning and tell us what happened.
Okay.
How you got there.
So like you'd mentioned, we met at the gym shortly after my brother passed away. I started working out to manage my stress and anxiety with losing my only brother, my only sibling. About a month after my brother passed away, my family and I, my family being my husband, my 3 children, and then my mom and my dad, we went up to Minocqua, just a little getaway, middle of the summer, I think it was. And the first day that we were there, my kids got swimmer's itch. I don't know if you or anybody listening has ever had swimmer's itch, but it is not recommended.
It sounds so terrible.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of ruined the entire time that we were up there, because then the kids absolutely refused to get in the water, and I don't blame them. So trying to find something else to do, because Minocqua is a lot about being on the water and swimming and being in the lakes. We went into town, and there's this tiny little shack, cute little shack with a, big flag sign out front that said Shave Ice. And my dad and I said, what is Shave Ice? Let's go check it out, right? It's not ice cream. It's not a snow cone, but let's go see what it is. And we absolutely fell in love with it.
Okay, so let's stop there real quick, because what is the difference between a snow cone and shaved ice? Shaved with a D or just shave?
So we call it Shave Ice because we do it, shaving it off the block, kind of Hawaiian style, right? So it didn't necessarily originate in Hawaii, but they call it Shave Ice. So, and that's something that my dad and I kind of joked about, is that we call it Shave Ice, not shaved. I know it's kind of silly, but that's just something that
so much more sophisticated you are.
It is. It is. So the difference is just how fine the ice is. So snow cones is more like a crushed ice, right? Chunky ice.
Yep.
Your syrup kind of just sinks to the bottom.
Yeah.
Shave ice is large blocks of ice that you shave off. So there's different types of, block shavers. But it has a really sharp blade that just shaves off a real fine, layer of snow, basically. So it holds the flavor, it absorbs the flavor. And then also there's just such a huge variety of different flavors. I get a lot of my concentrates from Hawaii, and then I make my syrups at home, not at home, but in the kitchen.
In the commercial kitchen.
In
where
the
you're
commercial
supposed to.
kitchen by hand, homemade. So, we don't have any of the high fructose corn syrup. It's just sugar and water. We do have dye-free. We have sugar-free for a lot of the moms that don't want to have the food colorings, which is kind of
Right.
becoming a big thing. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of really good flavors that taste really good that are dye-free. Anyway, so now we're back in Minocqua, and we fell in love with this little shave ice stand. My dad at the time was retired and loved to shop on Amazon. So he found a block shaver from Amazon, had it shipped to the house, and the story begins. We did shave ice for all the birthday parties. We had fall parties for the fall party, and kids' face just light up. All the adults like it. Even when when the adults try it, they think it's just going to be a snow cone, but then they're like, oh, this is really good. So that became our thing. My dad and I, we had all these flavors and all these different combinations and just something fun to do, right? It just kind of brought a little spark of joy, I think, especially for my dad, because my brother was like one of his best friends,
Yeah.
So for him, losing his son was really hard. So we had that to kind of laugh about and just be silly and be goofy about. And then it was a gift that he was able to give to his grandkids, and they loved it, right? Because they were really little at the time. And so a year after my brother passed away, my dad passed away as well. And that was a huge hit to me, to my mom, my kids. I mean, I felt like the rug was completely pulled out from underneath me.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was awful. Both very sudden deaths. So it wasn't like, not that any death is easy, but we never got the peaceful hospice. We know it's coming,
Right.
death. My brother just never woke up one morning, and my dad went to the hospital and never came out. So, so about almost a year after my dad passed away, my husband, there's a lot of story in between, but my husband ended up surprising us with a trailer on Mother's Day to start our own shave ice business. So, talking with the kids and just evolving the name, we ended up calling our business The Rendezvous, and we spell it Rondavu. So my dad was Ron, my brother is Dave, but I also like it as it's like a gathering place, right?
Yeah.
Like the rendezvous. So my dad was always one to he just wanted to hang out, right? He just kind of wanted to be with people. He liked to be around his family, even if it was just doing nothing. He wanted to just be with people. My brother was very social. I always said he would just stop in at people's houses and say hi. People that he knew. If he's driving by, he would be like, I'm going to stop in and say hi to them. I haven't seen them in a while.
Right.
And
Which is something we don't do anymore.
we don't do. And it's not something I ever did because it just wasn't my personality. But he's like, hey, I'm in the area. I just want to stop and say hi. And he'd just,
That's so cool. Yeah.
have a long conversation with them. So just very social. So just the rendezvous being a gathering place, named after my brother Dave, my dad Ron, just kind of seemed to fit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that was almost 4 years ago now that we started the Rendezvous.
Then you got into baking. No, see, I say macaroons. You say macarons.
I say macarons. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Yep. So I started making macarons 9 years ago, 8 years ago. So I wanted to have some macarons for Ben's birthday, and I kind of like a challenge. So I started watching YouTube videos, and I've never known what French macarons were. I've never had them before. I'm like, how hard can they be? Right? It's a
Right.
cookie. How hard could it be? And so I just challenged myself to learn how to make it. And then I went down the rabbit hole of French macarons and fell in love with them and became obsessed with French macarons and baking and all that stuff. So Rendezvous kind of ties in the shave ice in the summer. I do the baking in the winter because, we have a commercial kitchen that we need for the business. And I use the baking in the off season to pay the rent for the business.
Commercial.
So
For the commercial kitchen.
Yep.
Yeah. But you were doing kind of both the shaved ice and the macarons as almost like therapy, right? To kind of help you past the anxiety that you were feeling, after you lost your dad and your brother. Would you say that it was something that it kept your mind off of it, it kept you busy, or was it more of I'm creating something? I mean, what would you say was the therapeutic part of it, or all the above?
I had already started making macarons, before my dad
Yep.
passed away. It's always funny because my dad would always say, "I don't really like macarons, but those are really good." Oh, I like that flavor. I don't like macarons. I like that flavor. So it's just kind of a funny little thing. But so I already knew what it took to make the macarons. Like I knew that I had to focus on it. I knew that I had to, really be present when I was baking. Otherwise I end up with a mess and just sadness on a tray. And nobody likes sadness on a tray. And so really after my dad passed away, trying to wrap my brain around it, which, I mean, how do you?
Right. Yeah.
You just don't. Still trying to be present for my kids, still trying to be a nurse, still trying to be a wife, still trying to, be there for all these different things. I started baking macarons a lot, trying different recipes. There's various different techniques. I won't go into all that, but there's various different techniques of making them. And I used that for my mental health, for my anxiety, to get out of the grief headspace, basically, to just to kind of stop thinking about the whys and, what happened, why isn't my dad here, and just to get away from that. Some of my friends thought I was crazy because I'm like, hey, I've got some macarons. And they're like, why are you baking? Like, your dad just, and I'm like, no, I need to bake because otherwise I'm going to just sit and think. And then that makes me sad, angry, all the things.
Right. Yeah. No, being alone with your thoughts sometimes is not,
yes.
it's not the best idea.
It's not. And so trying to bake something that's as complicated as macarons, it just really gave me just an escape. So, so that was about 4 years ago. Over the years, I started hearing different things. There's a teenager at my church who her dad passed away. And I just had a couple brief conversations with her mom about how she likes to bake. And she makes a really good chocolate chip cookie, right? Just a plain chocolate chip cookie. I think it's a recipe that her grandma had. And she loves to make it. Oh, no, sorry. It wasn't chocolate chip cookies. It was some kind of a yeast dough, something that she makes. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Okay.
But it was a recipe that her grandma passed down. It's a complicated recipe. But her mom said that she loves to make it because then she can take it places and it helps her feel like good.
Right.
Because she's bringing something.
Yes, she's
right.
giving.
And it's something that she's making. So I started thinking about how I used baking. And then I heard this. And I actually said to my husband almost a year ago. So it was back in October. We were out for our anniversary. And I shared with him that I wanted to somehow, I wasn't sure at the time, but I wanted to share baking with early teens, the tweens, the preteens, the teenagers, girls that might be struggling with mental health, anxiety, whatever it is that they're dealing with in today. Because today is so complicated. I have an 11-year-old daughter who is 11 going on 18.
Yeah.
And it's very complicated.
They went through COVID. They get their periods way too young now. I
Social
mean,
media,
it's
just,
social media. There's so
yes,
many things that make it so difficult at that
right,
age when they should just be kids,
right. And so I said I said and my husband back in October that I want to somehow teach them, give them baking, that they can use it now for mental health, right? Um, give them something to focus on, give them an escape, give them something to occupy their minds so they're not thinking about whatever it is that's bothering them, right? Here
Right.
and now. But then it also ties in STEM education, right? It's got the science, it's got the chemistry, it's got the math, it's got all this. But then it also is teaching like life skills of baking,
Mm-hmm.
right? That maybe later on in life, it's something that they want to use as a side hustle on their own
Yeah.
to make some money for whatever trip that they're going to go on, whatever they're going to do. So I kind of had all these thoughts. This was back in October. I said that to my husband. So then fast forward a couple months, my niece struggling with her own things and anxiety and just things that,
Because she lost her father.
right. So this is my brother's daughter. So, and then my dad passed away a year later. Her other grandma, so my sister-in-law's mom, passed away 6 months before my brother. So she kind of got hit with a series of deaths real quick. And she was young.
That is right there. It is a recipe for anxiety because think about that as a young child.
Mm-hmm.
People, like you said, they weren't ill and you couldn't sit and explain
Right.
it to her and she could
Why
say
they're
her
gone.
goodbyes. It was
Mm-hmm.
just one day you're there and the next day you're
Right.
gone. That's, I mean, that's like living on thin ice every day. Like, when am I going to fall through?
Right.
And when is the next person going to die? I mean, I'm sure she has all that stuff going through her head.
Right. And so I don't have, I can't fix any of that, right? I can't bring those people
Right.
back. I can't, there's not a lot I can do, but I can offer to just spend that time and to bake with her. So I called my sister-in-law and I said, hey, can I come and spend an afternoon? Can we bake something together? And I wanted it to be something easy enough that she can do because she's young, but yet something special enough that nobody else has, right? So I ended up baking and teaching her a brown butter chocolate chip cookie recipe. And it's the brown butter that kind of elevates just your simple chocolate chip cookie recipe.
And you already told me that I couldn't get it unless I took
Unless
your
you take my class.
with pigtails,
That's right.
apparently,
With pigtails.
because I'm too old.
That's right.
Although
I didn't say it.
I do have a mind of a child. Does that help?
It does.
Okay, good.
So we baked together. I had a great time because I like to bake. Another part of my nursing career was teaching. And I really enjoy teaching. Things that I picked up over the years of being an ostomy nurse was anticipating, telling people things that they never knew that they don't know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So finding those small little details to kind of bring the pieces together. So I kind of see myself as like a micro teacher. I teach like the micro details.
Okay.
Especially I think it's good for like teens and for younger kids so that they really understand not just the recipe, but it's more like the technique and the science behind it, because then you carry that on to the next recipe. So you're not just memorizing this one recipe, you're taking that science and, like I said, those techniques on in life, and then you can tweak it and make your own and create your own things, right?
Right.
As you become more confident in baking.
Yeah.
So I went and I did some teaching with her, or some baking and teaching. And I thought it went great because it's what I like to do.
Yeah.
She, I think, had a good time. Thought it was okay. She really liked to eat the cookies. What I thought was kind of fun was we added extra chocolate chips.
Oh, always.
Right?
Yes.
The recipe only called for this much, but we threw in an extra handful.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fun. I left. That was the end of it. Until maybe like a month or so later, her mom said to me, oh, I wanted to just let you know that she had a really good time baking. And, her sisters told her how great the recipe was. They told her how good she did with the cookies. And then she started telling people she wants to be a baker just like her aunt. So, you add how I felt when my dad passed away and how I use baking, the conversation I had with my husband, the things that I've heard at church, from this teenager talking about how she uses baking, and then just kind of this experience that I had with my niece, I decided I was just going to create a program. I was just going to do it. Wasn't sure how or where it was going to come from. I was just going to put something down on paper and let it kind of roll and go where it goes. Where I'm going to teach teenagers and how to bake. So I started with a small group of girls at my church at the youth group. I call it Faith Flour Baking Devotional. I know it's kind of cliche and silly, but
well, no, because it's again, and if we would have recorded the first part of this, I explained that your baking program is completely different. It's kind of like a 3-step program, at least the one you told me about, and I know that you are coming out with new things now. But it's more than just learning a recipe and making a cookie or
Right.
whatever you're going to make that day. It is about these kids becoming empowered and finding confidence, and then but you even add another layer onto it, which is the devotional part of it. So anyway, I interrupted you because you're going to explain all this, but yeah, it's just really cool. So
I call it, so the overall term is the Faith Flour Baking Devotional, right? So the first class that I did was a cookie confidence. Okay, so we did our brown butter chocolate chip cookie recipe, but with it, we do a devotional and we relate it to baking. Okay, so this first class that we did was I let the girls kind of create and customize their own cookie recipe, trying to show them that they are kind of like a cookie, if that makes any sense. So cookies...
You're made up of lots of different ingredients.
Well, but cookies in general are made up of, sugar, butter, eggs. But they have special add-ins, right? So they have all these different things, and that kind of depends on the baker, right? So just like people, we all are made up of hair, skin, eyes, nose, but we all have our own special thing that we were given to make us unique.
Yeah.
So that was the first devotional, and it was, that... Can you edit this part out?
Yeah.
Because I'm like floundering all over the place.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm trying to explain it, but I'm kind of all over the place here. So
when you explained it to me, this is what I remember, and of course, my memory or how I perceived it could be different, but it sounded almost like a 3-part series where. Almost a 4-part, right? Well, I guess the devotional part of it is just kind of an umbrella over the whole top of it, right? And then you showed them how to make the cookie. Then they get to make the cookie. And then they have to bring a friend in and teach somebody. So then the student becomes the teacher.
So I'm trying to get there, but there's so many, my brain is starting to go so many different directions because of how I got, you know what I mean? How it all kind of unfolded. So that's kind of why I'm trying to get it all out without going back and forth and all over the place. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I started with the small group of girls at church. It was just 3 of them. And I brought the recipe, showed them the recipe, and we did everything by weight, right? Instead of using the cup measurements. And that's important because when I let them customize their recipe, they can pick different flours, right? Also to equal this amount of weight for their flour. And that was super exciting for the girls because they each picked a different type of flour and mix that kind of they felt related to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. So tell me about the different flours you had.
So we did all-purpose flour, cake flour, and bread flour.
Okay.
And so the science part of it was what each of them does to the cookie and what kind of outcome they're going to get. So I kind of explained that to the girls first, and then I let them make their mix of flour as long as it equaled this total weight that they needed.
Right.
And that was a lot of fun because then we got to see that, and then we got to see the cookie at the end and how they were all different, but yet they were all so delicious, right? Because they were, they all had the same amount of sugar and the same amount of, flour and eggs and all that, but one was crispy, one was chewy, one, so that was
Right.
that was a lot of fun. And so,
And what great community at that point to be able
Right.
to share with each other and, basically give feedback and, oh, I loved how your cookie was this and that. And, so I mean, that's a huge part of life
right.
that we don't always get to teach kids, right?
And it was more like that cookie might look different, but it's still really good.
Right.
That girl might look different, but she's still amazing.
Yeah.
That person might look different than me, but she still has a lot to offer. Is
Right.
kind of what the whole first devotional was about, right? That we all have the same main structures, but we're all given different characteristics by
Right.
the
You gotta-
creator. The baker is the creator, so they got to pick their flour and then they got to do their add-ins, their chocolate chips, peanut butter chips, Heath, just a variety of things. So we do a devotional. Another part of this journey that I've been on is positive affirmations.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's another side story of how I started with positive affirmations, but I decided I was going to add positive affirmations into this program with these girls because positive affirmation and saying those affirmations, speaking them out is like rewiring their brain and their thought process, right? So the mouth is speaking it, their ears are hearing it, and so they're rewiring how they see themselves, how they feel about themselves. It was super awkward at first, right? Because I'm like, no, everyone has to say this out loud. You have to repeat, and so
And girls that age really don't want to do stuff
they
like
don't.
that.
They really
Yeah.
don't.
It's uncomfortable. Even adults are uncomfortable doing it. So
And it is
yeah.
it is awkward,
And
and if you
it's-
aren't used to doing positive affirmations and saying
Right.
those affirmations, it's awkward and it's kind of weird.
And for all those
sometimes.
out there that are sitting right now and thinking to themselves, well, this is some woo-woo stuff. It might be, but this stuff works. It actually works. If you've never tried positive affirmations, then you don't know, but it really
Right.
does work. I mean, it's the same thing as if, say you're playing tennis and you throw the ball up to serve it. And if in your head you're saying to yourself, oh, this is going to be terrible. It probably is going to be terrible. But if you throw the ball up and you're like, I totally got this, you're going to have a way better serve. And it's the same thing,
Right.
but we just don't take the time to do it. And we get caught in that, what do you want to say?
Like the negative mind
that-
speak almost.
Yeah. It's like this vicious cycle of, cutting ourselves down and being
Right.
mean to ourselves. And, we wouldn't talk that way to other people, but in our heads, we say that to ourselves,
Right.
which is terrible. We are our own worst critics.
And, teens are going through so many changes and body changes. So I really wanted to have the devotion and the positive affirmations to focus on positive self-reflect, positive self-esteem. And so we did a positive affirmation. We said it out loud. Had a scripture that went with it. And it went over fabulously, right? The girls loved it. They thought it was great. So another part of what I think gains confidence is learning something enough that you can teach it, right? Then you know that you've learned it. Part of my nursing was when you learned a new skill, it was always see one, do one, teach one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing that I try to incorporate into this program is we bake the same recipe 3 times. But the first time is they're seeing it and I'm teaching that recipe to them. I'm working with them side by side. I'm helping them with their measurements, their weighing, cracking the eggs and all that stuff. So that's the C1. The second class that we did was still the same brown butter chocolate chip cookie with the devotion, the affirmation, and the scripture. But now this time they kind of worked more independently. You know, I was there if they needed a little bit of help. That was the do one part of this whole program. So C1, do one. And then the third one was I encouraged the girls to invite someone to teach their recipe to now that they learned it because they've done it twice. And they did one fairly independently. And a couple of the girls did it on their own at home. So then they brought a friend to teach one. And so it was the C1, do one, teach one. That it was great. I mean, I saw, one girl in particular, I could just see her kind of really growing from the first class to the last class. If it's only in her confidence in baking, then I've accomplished something, but I saw confidence in her.
Right.
She was super proud of her cookie. She was practicing it at home. She made a really great cookie. Like her dough or her flour combination was fabulous. I think hers was like 50-50 of the AP and the bread flour. And then as the classes went on, some of the other girls were wanting to use, her combination because it was a great, cookie effect. So that really helped her confidence.
Yeah.
So,
but because when I started this podcast, everyone was asking me, well, what's it about? So the underlying, theme of this podcast, I would always tell people was that I want to, teach people to move past fear. And when you do that, realize how you feel when you push past it and you accomplish something that you didn't think you could accomplish or you were afraid of accomplishing, whatever it is, right? And to apply that to every aspect of your life. So when you say that, maybe she only gained confidence in baking, yes, if you don't make that conscious effort to have her apply it to other parts of her life, right? So to say, hey, listen, you did something that you didn't think you could do and you taught it to somebody else. You gave them the gift. Think of how many other areas of your life you can do this, right? You can have the difficult conversation. You can, have the difficult social, interaction, right? Because I know at that age, it's really hard for girls to go up and introduce themselves or ask for something or whatever, and to say, remember when you thought you couldn't make a cookie by yourself or you didn't think you could teach it to somebody, you did that. You can do so many other things now, and I think that's really the coolest part about it.
And it's funny because a lot of people will say, I can't bake to save my life because of this, the exact science of it. And so learning how to bake and to bake really well, I think goes to your point that if you can do this, then you can do hard things.
Right.
And that's part of that positive affirmation. I can do hard things.
Yeah.
As simple as that is. I mean, that there is a positive affirmation. I can do hard things.
Because it's step by step.
Right.
And that's how you teach it. So the reason that a lot of people think they can't do hard things is because they're going from here, I don't know anything, to here, I'm an expert. Well, how do I get from here to there? Right. Well, nobody just jumps from there to there, right? Everybody had to take little baby steps along the way. And so it's really just settling into, I'm going to learn this step by step. And guess what? I'm going to fail. And that's okay because every time I fail, I learn something. And everybody who's ever done anything, anybody who's ever become an expert in anything, by the way, I was told by somebody that you're an expert if you're just one step ahead of somebody else. Because in their eyes, you're an expert, right? Because you know one more thing than they do or whatever it is, right? So There really are no true experts in this world. There's just somebody who's further along in the process than you are. But yeah, I mean, it's all about the learning to fail, which is another huge thing because, we instill in our children that, they're perfect all the time and everything's perfect and, everything's okay. And it's not, sometimes you fail,
I think
It's-
just being okay to fail.
yeah.
Like it's part of life's journey.
Hmm.
Someone once said to me, life isn't a destination, it's a journey.
Right.
And so you get there by you go down this path, and if that's doesn't pan out or if you fail, then it just kind of guides you to another path. And as life goes on,
I mean, look at what you've done, right?
right. So my journey keeps taking turns all over the place. I
Mhm.
started as a massage therapist and I went into nursing kind of because it was what I felt like I needed to do, for stability, for insurance, job security. I really didn't know what else I wanted to do with my life when I grew up. I really didn't want to be a nurse my whole life, but that just kind of seemed like the logical step from massage therapy. I went into nursing. I was a nurse for 16 years. I was a specialized wound and ostomy nurse for 13 of those years. Also, not something that anybody says one day, I'm going to go be an ostomy nurse. Like,
Right.
that's just somewhere that my journey took me, as, it just kind of turns and flows.
But then what did you tell your husband just recently about nursing, about how you felt about it?
Oh, that I never wanted to be a nurse growing up.
Yeah.
So that kind of surprised him because, most people, they are little kids and they say, I want to be a nurse.
Right.
So my journey, my life journey is continuing now as I recently left the medical field and I left my nursing job 3 weeks ago to pursue my rendezvous business as that is expanding now from just the Shave Ice food trailer to this Faith and Flour Baking Devotional. I'm going to teach some baking classes to homeschool kids this fall. I'm going to branch out that way, and I've been teaching French macaron classes as well.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the new thing that you're doing. So you're going to still do the Faith and Flour. And then you said you had a new venture. Is that the homeschooled kids that you're talking about?
So that's part of the Faith and Flour.
Okay.
So I'll be taking that program to the homeschooled kids
Okay.
and teach them the baking. I'm going to incorporate more like the STEM component to it, as well as the devotional, and just kind of put that into a whole program for them.
What is STEM again? It's science,
Technology,
engineering, and math.
mathematics.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is so incredible.
And like baking has all that,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is amazing.
Yeah. And so I mean, I know when we were talking about this before, I was coming up with all these ideas in my head that you could, teach this to other people online, right?
Mhm.
So they could start it in their own communities because obviously you can't
Right.
be everywhere, right? You could do the baking, via, videos and things like that. But really, and I think you've done some things along that lines, but I really think that the community of being in person with people is so different, right? I mean,
Right.
and so if you could teach other people to teach, I think that would be amazing, and how to start the program and what the program entails,
Right.
to do it, in the most effective way.
And so Faith and Flour Baking Devotional is a baby right now
Yes.
because I really just started it. But I do see that
Yeah.
coming down the line because now that I'm not a nurse, I have lots of time. So I do want to teach people how to give this to their teens and give this to their community and, give this to their church group. And how that looks exactly. I don't know yet. But like I said, life being a journey, things tend to unfold and opportunities tend to arise, if you're open to them.
Well, and that's when you were talking, I was thinking that same thing. It's really about being open and always trying things. Anything that interests you, that you're passionate about, just go for it. And it may become nothing, or it
Right.
may be something like this where it takes you down a path where you're so fulfilled. I mean, how great do you feel about what you're doing for these kids?
I love it.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, I love it because I like I said, I like to teach and I'm a caregiver at heart, not necessarily a nurse. That, like I said, that's
right.
not where I
Yeah.
always wanted to be, but I'm a caregiver. I want to help people. I want to give something to somebody. I want to, if somebody is struggling with their grief, I've been there. I want to be able to help them and give them something to use to get through that sharp pain, that time frame when you
Right.
feel like, it's never going to end.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. And I mean, there's nothing saying that you couldn't branch out to adults that are,
right.
who've lost somebody or going through something traumatic. And that's so cool. I mean, there's so many things you could do with it. But what would you say to or your own daughter and your sons? Like, how are you going to direct them when it comes time to, I've talked about this before on the podcast about these kids that are 17, 18 years old, and we're looking at them saying, you need to choose a major, you need to choose a career. And sure, they do the little quiz,
Mm-hmm.
but then even after the little quiz, it's, oh, these are your interests. Well, then, you should go into these traditional, positions, right? These traditional occupations. And I thought it was funny because after the quizzes, some of the things that they said my children should do, I'm like, they don't know
What?
my children. Yeah, you know what I'm
I
saying?
think your
Like,
kid just picked all C.
right, yeah,
Went through
exactly. You're like,
C,
did you
C,
even
C.
read the
Yeah.
questions? Because what? Why would
Right.
they think that you should do that? So, how are you going to direct your children when it comes time to, okay, we need to, I mean, how do you feel about 4-year college now that the whole world is upside down? There's so many great options for entrepreneurship or technical school or, whatever. I
Right.
mean, how are you going to navigate that?
So my husband and I both have businesses now. So they have that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest son, so he's 13 and he's already started his own business.
Oh, I love the story you told me. This is great. I love it.
So we had to change a couple of things up with his school, and he went virtual in the middle of 6th grade. So we pulled him out of his school, middle of 6th grade, and he's not a school kid,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't. He's a boy, right? He wants to be out doing and running around, and he's not paper and pencil. And so trying to get him on the computer to do his lessons was a challenge. But he bugged my husband to no end to teach him how to use the power washer. And from there,
I mean, if I were a kid, I would think
right.
that was great too.
Yeah.
How
So
much fun is that?
from there, he went knocking on doors in our neighborhood, and he drummed up a decent amount of business for power washing.
What does he power wash? Like sidewalks and
Driveways.
Okay.
Yeah. We really try to discourage him from like houses because windows and things like that.
Yeah, that could be bad. Yeah.
Right. But, he was 12 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a decent amount of money in that summer for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And he loved it. And he worked really hard in the hot, wet, dirty he would stay there till the job was finished. He made sure he did a good job. So he was learning.
All really good lessons.
Right.
Yeah.
He was learning. And so now this is his second year and he's out drumming up business, knocking on doors. So he's already
Just
getting
just
like
the knocking on doors.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a big deal
holy
because
mackerel, that's huge.
we get comments from these people. So obviously he needs someone to drive him
Right.
back to these houses with the power washer. So my husband is that person and, drives him over there. And we get these comments all the time that, the confidence that he has, he knocks on the door, he introduces himself, he looks him in the eye, just the way that he presents himself is impressive. So I'm pretty proud. I'm really proud of him.
Yeah.
That he, took not the best situation having to go virtual in the middle of 6th grade, and he made something for himself. So going back to your question, are we going to push a 4-year college degree? If you ask my husband, no. There's so many other options.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many other options. So my son already has the entrepreneurial bug spirit,
Yep.
right? I mean, he wants to sell something, create something. So he's already got that mindset. He's already trying to think of what he can accomplish and what he can do. My daughter wants to be a lawyer. And she will argue with the best of them. But I will say I wanted to be a lawyer when I was growing up too. So
yeah.
maybe she will, maybe she won't.
So my daughter is thinking about that right now. Oh gosh, I don't know what she would be considered in college right now, a junior maybe, because she changed majors, and so that always kind of messes everything up. So, but she's looking to, do her LSATs and and become an attorney, and it was just nothing I ever thought of for my children, right? I just, but that being said, I've talked to a few attorneys who, just like you with your nursing, they thought that's what they wanted to do. Oh God, I talk to people all the time because I ask people. And so when people are allowed to tell you the truth, they will say,
right,
I don't like my job. I do it to pay the bills, that type of thing.
right.
And so I want her to really be able to go out. And I think I've been saying this for years, ever since my oldest, who's now 30, was in, high school, getting ready to go to college, that these kids don't have enough opportunities to really go and try and see the career that they want to go into. And they're usually blindsided when they go into it. They're like, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be at all. Because of course we see it glorified on TV, right? And so it's like, I want her to go and be able to, shadow an attorney for a while, and, but different types of law. How do you know what kind of law you want to go into from reading a description? And that's the thing that where I think universities drop the ball too, where they're just not setting up the opportunities, or they're not creating maybe a seminar, right? Even that these kids could go around and, talk to different attorneys, or they get up and they explain what they do, in an honest way, right? Don't sugarcoat this. Don't make it seem, like something it's not, right? And I'm not saying, get up there and, only talk about the bad stuff, but talk about the bad stuff, the stuff that's not as fun to do, and talk about, the rewards, and talk about, and really, really get in depth, about what it is they're getting into, because you spend so much money. If your daughter wants to become an attorney, by the time she's done paying for school,
right,
if she doesn't like it,
and a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I had a guest on this podcast who she went from being an arbitration lawyer to doing ayahuasca retreats. Totally different things, right? Completely different.
Well, I mean, nursing and selling shave ice.
Right. Exactly. And she talked about how, she's like, it was like soul sucking, she's just, or soul crushing, I think she called it. And she left. She had $50,000, I believe it was, left in law school loans.
Yeah.
And she just one day was like, I'm out, and she went a completely different path, but is so much happier now. And, but gosh, wouldn't it be great if they didn't make that, like we said, you make mistakes, you fail, right, whatever, and you learn from it. But that one's pretty big, I
That's a big one.
wish there was more guidance for kids.
But not just the monetary aspect of that with the losses that we've experienced. So it was my brother, a year later was my father, and then a year after that was my mother-in-law. Life is really short.
Mm-hmm.
And it's too short to be spending day after day in a job that doesn't appreciate you, that will replace you the second that you leave, that doesn't really care
Mm-hmm.
about you. And for months, I was weighing, when do I leave that career? When do I leave, not career, but when do I leave that job, that place? I'm replaceable there. I'm not replaceable at home.
Right.
So it's that moment that I started realizing that I need to just go for the dreams and the things that make me happy. Spending that time with my kids, even just these 3 weeks that since I've left nursing, I feel like I've gotten to know my kids more because I have, not that I have more time with them, it's that the time that I spend with them now is more quality because I'm not so stressed.
Right. Because
To be somewhere that I don't want to be, to be
Mhm.
somewhere that doesn't appreciate me, to be somewhere that is just taking my time and my energy when I'm not promised tomorrow.
Right. You're just
If
trading
that-
time for money at
Right.
that job.
And nobody's promised tomorrow. And I know that's cliche, but when you've seen it so many times, you really start to understand it and really realize how short life is and the things that you want to do and the impact that you want to make and what you want to leave really starts to become important.
Yeah. Yeah. I had on yesterday, his name is Sanjeev Verma, and we talked about there's something called Vedic astrology, and it takes your birth time, your birthplace, and birthplace. What else would it be? Birth date. So the time you were born during that
Mhm.
day, and then the place you were born, and basically says I can tell you your baby's destiny.
Mhm.
What from the angle of the sun and the moons and all the planets and all that stuff, right? And basically what it is that he said there's so many of us out there that are not in line with our destiny,
Sure.
and that's where you get the anxiety, the depression, the exhaustion. It's exhausting
Mhm.
to be doing something that is not aligned with your destiny, right? And you can replace the word destiny with anything else, right? I
Sure.
mean, it's not aligned with your true self. It's not aligned with, however you want to say it if you don't believe in destiny. And yeah, that when you finally go into something that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, that you find purpose in, you're finally like, this is my life's purpose. And it might change in 5 years. Your purpose
Right.
might
But that's
like
the
you said.
journey.
Yeah,
though.
that's the
It's
journey.
it's not a destination. You
Right.
don't just finally get there.
Right.
It's a journey that you're constantly moving and flowing towards,
Yeah. Yeah.
which makes it fun.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's so great that you can do that, and to do it for not only for yourself but for your kids. Like you said, I get more quality time with my kids. More quality time with your husband, I'm sure too. Everything in your
Right.
life right now is
Mhm.
probably more quality because you don't have that stress.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm sure you still have stress, but it's different stress. It's stress that that you want, if that makes sense, right? You know,
I mean, the business is busy.
yeah,
So that's stressful just because some of the events that we do are big.
yeah,
We will, serve 500 some odd shave ice in a couple of hours because we
right,
do large groups of kids and corporate events and all that stuff. So that's stressful, but like you said, that's a good stress. But,
yeah,
another thing that led me to leave nursing was just a lot of things going on with my kids,
mm-hmm.
in their lives. And I'm not going to get into their own personal things, but that, like, I started to realize they need, like, mom.
Mm-hmm.
They need mom, not just at home, but they need mom more present.
Right. Yep.
And so that's where I'm able to, like you said, spend more of that quality time and help work through some of those situations. So kind of a side conversation here. After my dad passed away, I'm a person of faith. My dad was a minister growing up. And after my dad passed away, I kind of stopped. I don't want to say stop believing, but really started like questioning,
Mm-hmm.
like, why, where, how could you do this? Why did you take him? And just kind of like wanted nothing to do with God, church, but I still went because I wanted my kids to have something. My kids were going to a Lutheran school. I still was going through it and going through the motions. And so in creating this Faith Flour Baking Devotional, I was trying to pull out scriptures that would, relate to various different affirmations and devotionals. And I started like reading various little scriptures that were, I think, meant for me.
Oh yeah, that happens.
Yeah. So I'm going to probably start crying.
No, that's okay. I've got tissues.
So it wasn't just, about the girls and their baking. It was, I think, a journey that God was bringing me back, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
because I really, like I said, I wanted like nothing to do with it, but I wanted to give something to these girls, right? I want to give them something. I want them to know that, God is there for them. And even if God did this to me, like
Right.
that.
Right. So
I know that sounds silly, but
no, I get
deep
it.
down, that's kind of, my way of thinking. Like, it was bad. Like I was very angry for a long time. And so, I started like I said, these short little scriptures because they were just short little things. And I was just kind of like, wow, I think God was really trying to reach me and speak to me, but he knows that I wasn't going to accept it at church from this person, that person. And this is how he came,
Yeah.
got back to me
Well,
to let me know that he's still there for me.
yeah. And it was almost as if you were open to it because you wouldn't have seen it. You
Because I
wouldn't have
wanted to
found
give it to someone else.
Correct.
Right.
And so
God was
because
sneaky.
you would open, yes, he is, but because you had opened yourself up
Right.
and you were ready to give, you were able to receive that and to see that and to
Right.
recognize it. Right. Which, do you remember any of the scriptures or any small part of it?
I have them written down.
Okay.
But the thing I do remember is, so there's a song. It's called Lion. I don't know what your faith is or your belief or whatever, but it's by Brandon Lake and Elevation Worship, I think it is, but it's called Lion. And so there's a part at the end of the song that says, may your valleys be raised up and your mountains be made low.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. And I remember saying to my husband in this conversation back in October, I want to somehow use that for these girls because then they can realize like it's situational. right? Whatever you're going through right now is situational.
Mm-hmm.
May your valleys, your low points be raised, and the things that seem so big right now
Right.
eventually won't be, right?
The unattainable will
Right.
become attainable.
Well,
Yes.
not just the unattainable, but like your big problems,
Right. I see what you're
like
saying.
your
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
mountains,
Right. That
like
you
as a
got to get over.
teenager,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
May those be low, right?
Yep.
If you're down in the depression valleys, may that be raised. That's kind of how the song was going. May your valleys be raised up and your mountains be made low. So I'm singing this song, and whenever I'm baking, I'm always playing this song. So as I was going through some of these scriptures for this devotional, I came across the scripture that is from that song. I think it's in, Romans. I'd have to look. And I started realizing that over the last several months, I was like speaking that healing from grief kind of over myself. And I was saying that positive affirmation over and over, not really realizing it until I was ready to see that scripture,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that is going to be more of like the adult part of the grief and the healing part of the Faith and Flour,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot.
There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much trauma that we go through in our lives that, we brush under the rug, or, we push down, and
Well, you kind of,
we need to,
you have to, because you still have to show up every day
right.
to work, to be a mom, to be a wife, to be whatever it is that you're doing. Like, you still have to just get up and move on.
Yes.
But yet now you do it without these people that were there yesterday,
Right.
and were so important, but you got to just move on.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain it, if people haven't gone through it, but it's almost like people just kind of expect you to just be done and be better.
Yeah. At a certain point,
Well, it's
like,
been like this long, like,
yeah, you're good now, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like it
It's
should
been
be
a
over
year.
it by
You're
now.
fine. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And and everybody, it hits them. I have a friend. In fact, we have a big memorial fundraiser volleyball tournament tomorrow for her daughter that died when she was 20 years old. And it was funny because right after she passed away, she said, I want to do a memorial volleyball tournament. She loved playing volleyball, and that's why they came to me to ask me, could you help with the volleyball part of it? And I said, sure, absolutely. And it was funny because, like, all those months that we were doing the planning, the other committee members, and we're all like friends and relatives of each other, that type of thing, right? And we kind of got together on the side and said, is anybody else worried about her? She seems too okay, right? And I think it was a year later that she came to me and she said, "Oh, I feel it now."
Yeah.
So she was just going through the motions, doing what she had to do, like you said, because you still have to show up every day. You still have to, whatever. And then it hit her one day. And, it's devastating.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to start crying.
I know. I know. It's just a yuck feeling.
But yeah, it's like,
it's
whenever you go through it, it's okay. And however long it takes you to get through it, that's okay too. As long as you keep moving through it.
right.
Don't try to go around it. Going around it doesn't, that's what I was saying about the brushing under the rug, same thing, going around it. It's always going to be there then if you don't process it, if you don't go through it. And it will eat away at you, and it will keep you from doing things, whether it's, professional, personal, communication with other people, whatever it is. It's always going to be holding you back somehow. And that's why, you helping these people go through, whatever trauma it is and process it and in the way that you're doing it, right? You're not going to sit down and have talk therapy with them, right?
Right.
But the little things that you're going to do that can open their mind up and to have a different perspective and see things a different way, or maybe, like now like you saw that scripture, right?
Right.
And maybe that's something that will help them. They'll have one of those aha moments where it helps them finally get past it. And you're never past it, you're never over it, but to work through it to get to a place where you're healthy
And
with it.
sometimes you don't know that that thing is there.
Yes, that's what I'm
And
talking
so,
about. Yeah.
right. And so I hope to help people see that odd things might be that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it might be in their life. And it might not be baking. It might not be scripture. It might not be positive affirmation. It might be some other odd random thing. But to realize that that thing or that situation may have always been there, but they didn't realize it. So giving them that different perspective that their healing may have always been there,
Right.
but then they need to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's huge, I mean, it's not all the time. So it's funny because we're usually in relationships with people where we don't have these conversations. And it usually happens with other people, with strangers, if you will, so to speak, right? Um, it's sometimes hard to go to the people closest to you and really say what you want to say to them or ask them questions, you know what I'm saying? Or to really unload, the emotions that you're having. People that love us don't want to see us hurt. And so they have a tendency to try to fix it
Correct.
instead of letting you process it.
Right. And it's
And
not something that can be fixed.
right,
You can't fix it.
right,
And that's why, like with my niece, I can't fix things, but I can offer something of myself to her
right.
to help.
Yeah. And in the process, you gave her confidence and, you gave her a gift that she can give to other people, which again, gives her even more confidence, right? So you gave her the confidence that she learned a new skill. Then you gave her that confidence that comes from being able to give somebody a gift, to teach somebody something else, or even just baking and giving it away as a gift,
Right.
as it's that comes from the heart, right? That's not, I went to the store and just bought you a gift card,
Mm-hmm.
like I
Exactly.
took time to make this for you,
Right. And
which
so
is huge.
in me giving to her is my healing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's really cool. So anything else that you want to tell people out there that have gone through loss and, coming out the other side?
there is another side.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is and when that other side door might open, but it's there. It's just one day at a time,
One day at a
one
time.
foot in front of the other. I think, like I said, just realizing that life is a journey and this isn't your final stopping point. You're not going to always be in that hurt and that moment and that grief and that pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being open to the healing, because I wasn't for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's hard to be open to healing, especially when you're mad.
When you're mad. Yes.
When you're mad.
I was mad.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay to be mad for a little while, but then we must move on. So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening. And unfortunately, there's probably a lot of people listening that don't live in this area that would love to get involved in this somehow, or, to just learn the steps and things like that, which I know you're hopefully someday going to do. And if you don't, I'll be right behind you. Like, did you do it yet? Did you do it yet?
So we are on Facebook.
Okay.
It's the Faith Flour Baking Devotional. So I have my own Facebook page, and I put up little affirmations here and there. I did do one Zoom baking class. I'm not very good with technology right now, so the Zoom was a little
I'm so good at it.
It was a little rough, but I'm going to get better at it. So if anybody is interested in this program, I do have my Cookie Confidence devotional that I can share with them. And I would love to just be a mentor to whoever, if they want to pass it on to their youth group or pass it on to their group of teens, whoever needs it. And
Yeah.
they can find me on Facebook. They can send me a message.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And I'm going to put that in the show notes. And I just want to say what an inspiration you are to so many people out there, because who thought you could take cookies and do
I know.
so much with them? So people out there that have a passion and think you can't do anything with it, you're proof that you can.
Right.
That you just need to be creative. Just keep doing it, keep expanding it, keep being creative, and you'll make something out of whatever your passion is.
Right.
So,
especially if you're passionate in it, because then you want to do it.
Yeah.
And you want to share it with others.
And it comes to you then. It's so when you're passionate about something and you're confident in it, it's that way of being makes everything almost seem effortless. And things will come to you, especially, again, we talked about this, the positive affirmations and,
Right.
Mantras and things like that. And they really do work. And it's your way of being, your energy that you're putting out into the universe that is going to bring everything that you need to you.
Right.
It'll happen.
And sometimes I think we are our worst critic.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are our own
Barrier.
roadblock, our barrier, right? So the way that I look at it is, instead of saying, do people really want this? Right? Instead of are people going to want to teach cookies, or are they going to want this? I look at it like there's somebody that needs this. So it's that I'm doing it for that person.
Yeah.
And if I don't do it for that person, then what's going to happen?
Right.
So it's not fair of me to hold this.
To hold back your gift.
To hold back this gift that I think God has given me. I mean, baking is hard, and baking requires, a talent. And I think I have that. And I have a talent of teaching and a way of, like I said, explaining things. And so if I'm not going to give that to somebody, then to me, that's not fair.
Right.
And so for other people, if they have something that they're good at, there's somebody out there that wants it.
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
they need it.
Yes.
And so they're being selfish by not sharing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's funny because you mentioned, you were kind of like, can I do this? And should I
Right.
do this? And who's going to?
Right.
And I tell this story all the time because that's how I started with the whole idea of starting a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because, of course, there was my own self-sabotaging, stories I was having in my own head, my own conversations. That was, well, who am I to start a podcast? I've never done a podcast before. How can I do a podcast? I don't know what I'm doing, and who's going to listen to me anyway? And, all these
Right.
things, right? And so when I talked about it to others, I would literally, they'd be like, oh, so what are you doing these days? And I'm like, oh, not much. Just, I don't know, thinking about doing a podcast, but, what are you doing? And I would change the subject. And then one day I decided, I'm like, this is really what I want to do. And I'm going for it. And I'm like, I'll learn along the way. I'll pick everybody's brain. I'll,
Mm-hmm.
you'll fail and figure it out and, and do better next time. And I was so excited about it. And I started telling people, I'm doing a podcast. And when I went with that energy, then people would say, oh my gosh, really?
Right.
That's so cool. What is your podcast about? And then I tell them what my podcast is about.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're referring guests to me or asking, can I be on your podcast? Right. So one of my self-sabotaging thoughts was, well, how am I going to find guests to be on the show?
Right.
It has been almost effortless. All I have to do is talk to people about what I'm passionate about, and the guests just roll in, and so, yeah, I actually am also looking to turn this into something I can teach also, so that other people out there that want to start their own podcast that have no idea where to start,
Right.
I want to teach that, because it was something so important to me to be able to take my passion and turn it into a reality, that I want to help other people do that. And so, yeah, so there we go.
See, we're both going to be teaching.
I know. See? And I'm also a teacher by heart,
Yeah.
you know, like, you know, I was a personal trainer, I was a coach, I was, you know, it was funny because people always say, how do I find my purpose, right? And or how do I know what my passion is? All this stuff, right? Because people just really they don't know. And I think it's we have some kind of weird um I don't know if it's societal or whatever it is, but it's just this barrier to seeing, you know, what our gifts are and to seeing what our passions and our purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
And um, if you go back to your childhood, right? So there's a series of things that you can do to find your purpose, right? But one of them is um, like go back, like start from now and work your way back into all the things that you've done, and especially things that you've done that you've really found enjoyable, that you were excited about, that, you know, whatever. And so when I go backwards, I'm like, oh, well, you know, I was a personal trainer, I was a coach, I was a coach, I was a coach, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I remember in first grade, I was asked by the teacher to tutor one of the kids that didn't understand math. And I was pretty good at math.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember loving doing that.
Oh,
That I didn't say to myself, "Oh my God, I gotta go
yeah.
teach, you know, that girl over there now how to do her math equations because the teacher told me to do this, you know, whatever." It was one of those moments where it was like, "Wow, I get to help somebody," and I thought I was pretty good at it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like some
Yeah.
people are good teachers, some people aren't good teachers. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever. And of course, you learn over the years, you know, kind of you know, feedback, you know, from people that you're
Right.
teaching how to do it a different way, how to come at it from a different
Mm-hmm.
angle for the different personality or the different, you know, how their mind works. But yeah, so it's funny if you go backwards, you can go all the way back to when you were a little kid and realize that's really when it started, which kind of goes back to that Vedic astrology I was talking
Right.
about, where you can figure out what your destiny is, you know, from the moment you're born and whether you're living in line with that destiny or not. So yeah.
I will say I don't know that I was always a baker as a kid. I remember early 20s when I was first living on my own making brownies, and I didn't have oil, regular oil. So I just grabbed some olive oil that I had, but it was jalapeno olive oil.
Oh, well,
And I was like, I'll just try it.
spicy chocolate is the thing now.
I'll just try it. Put it in there. It was not good. I think and I think I actually took them to like a party. It wasn't just for me. And I remember someone saying they tasted like nacho brownies. Yeah. I like
Nacho brownie.
Yeah, like nacho brownie. That was not good. So I wasn't always a very good baker.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But you learned
I
from your
learned.
mistake. And it
Yeah,
was something you're passionate about.
it's a
So
journey.
my mother was a saint. She let me go into the kitchen. And so to the point of there's three main ingredients to cookies, right? Okay.
Mhm.
I learned that early on. You know, I watched my mom bake and then she taught me, you know, like the basic Toll House chocolate
Yep.
chip cookie recipe, you know. And then I wanted to be creative. I wanted to make my own creation, my own cookie.
Mhm.
And so I would take the main, you know, basic ingredients that I knew. Now I didn't know the science of it at the time, like why you needed those
Right.
things, but I knew I needed them, right? So I was like, I'll take that and then I'll just add anything in the kitchen into it, right?
Yeah.
I would make the biggest,
Tabasco sauce,
oh yeah, I'd make the biggest freaking
cornstarch. Yeah.
biggest mess. But my favorite was I made cinnamon cookies.
Oh.
Yeah, that one was a hit because they in and what I at first thought was a fail ended up actually being good was that they ended up kind of thin and crispy,
Mhm.
but that cinnamon thin crispy
Little bit of
cinnamon,
heat.
oh my God, it was so
Yeah.
good. It was
Should write that recipe down.
it's
Sell
too
it.
late. I'd have to go back to when I was like 10 and figure out what I did back then. I'm famous. My kids laugh all the time. I'm famous for just when I cook, I'm very creative.
Yeah.
Again, I know the basics of cooking and what flavors go together, right? I fail sometimes, but most of the time I'm now over the years I'm successful, but I just put stuff together, and then somebody will say, "Oh my God, that's so good. How did you make this?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"I don't remember."
Yeah. Sorry, I don't remember.
I just,
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
yeah, my kids are always like, "Mom, why don't you write that stuff down while you're doing it?" I'm like, "Okay, someday I will." But so anyway, so thank you so much for being
Thanks for
on.
having me. This was fun.
Yeah, it was so much fun. So, and I'm gonna have you on a little bit later down the road, see how things are going,
Yeah.
and see how all the classes are going, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds. I think it's gonna be amazing.
I'm really excited for it actually because, like I said, I just kind of started really wrapping my brain around it, and it's something I'm going to go for.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah,
I realize once I go for things, it happens.
yeah. You're doing a great job. I mean, I've seen your Facebook, and the Facebook posts are all looking great, and yeah, you're doing a great job. So
It's fun.
yeah. So anyway, so the Facebook is called Rendezvous, or is it your name?
So the Shave Ice trailer is the rendezvous
Right, but your Facebook page is what?
for the
It is.
Shave Ice.
Oh, for
Yep.
Shave Ice. Yes. Okay.
Yep. And so I have my like macaron classes, like local macaron classes on that, and then where we're going to be for the Shave Ice. But then the Faith and Flour Baking Devotional is actually a different Facebook page.
Okay.
And that one's just a little bit different because I really don't talk about like the Shave Ice or anything like that on there. It's
Right.
more just the devotion, the affirmations, any like Zoom baking classes that I'm going to be doing. And then that's where I'll be putting any of my curriculum and documents and stuff like that that I'll have that'll be available.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. I'm going to put that in the show notes. And yeah, well, thanks for being on. And we'll talk to you soon. Faith and Flour. Yeah. I love that. I've been there. That's yeah. I love it. That looks fantastic. Okay. I'm probably, look, I'm right there.
You're my follower.
I'm right there. I'm like the first person right there.
You're my 14th follower.
Oh, but after this, you're going to have so many more followers.
Yay.
It's going to be awesome. So, all right. Well, thanks for being on, and we will talk to you soon. And everybody, look in the show notes for how to get in touch with Tracy and find out about all her programs and everything that she's doing. And if you need a shaved ice truck at Shave Ice.
Shave Ice in the Waukesha area.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, we'll talk to everybody later. See ya.